What's up, my dudes? My name is Sister Turley, and this is the track review of the 2013 MXS-Concept Official Track night version. And oh my god, dude, I completely forgot about these awesome nighttime motocross tracks right here because there's not very many of them in this game, and that's a shame, man, because these are one of the most awesome looking, feeling, just the vibe and the essence you get from these nighttime motocross tracks is so different from any daytime motocross track or any daytime supercross track. They just have a whole different feeling all the way around them, and it just gives you this awesome, just like you're almost on another planet. I know it sounds crazy, but it's night and day difference, no pun intended, from a nighttime motocross track and a daytime motocross track. And for whatever reason, it just seems like most people have it in their head to make a daytime motocross track or a sunset motocross track or a morning time motocross track or something like that, something in the daytime. And then with like a supercross track, I guess when they're in a stadium, they're more so meant to be nighttime, but a lot of times they still don't capture that just nighttime feeling and that just dark moon out in the middle of the night kind of feeling to the tracks. And in real life, that is the kind of track I actually started riding on from the very beginning. That's the very first track I ever raced on, was a nighttime sort of motocross track that had that just awesome two-stroke blowing in the air, and you got the moon in the background. And those are memories I'll never forget about real life racing. So I guess I have somewhat of a little bit of an attachment to nighttime motocross tracks, I guess more so than other people would be, because it's kind of what I started on. And that's the same way with anything in life. Anything you start on, you're always going to have more of a mental just love attachment to it. Anything like the first Call of Duty you started playing, the first whatever, like even just, you could say things like the first hand you really started using in a sport, that's probably going to be your dominant hand that you're going to use for the rest of your life. And a lot of things like that are just crazy, because you think, well, how would that make a difference really? But it does. I mean, anything, I don't know what it is with the human brain, but it has this nostalgic, this real love for nostalgic things. And I don't know the science behind it really, but you always love older things even though today is the past tomorrow. So it's pretty crazy like that, but you always have a love for old school type feeling things. And I've noticed that just in my own life. And this track's got some crazy roughness on it. It's not just like some wild big bumps or anything. It just has these really unpredictable, out of nowhere, crazy jagged edge bumps on this track that will completely flip you over the bike. So definitely be careful on that. It's a lot different than any other track out there. And that was the cool thing about this track that I figured out, was a lot of times with the old school tracks, you get on there and it's just so smooth and so easy, and there's not really any challenge to it. But what really shocked me and surprised me about this track was there's actually a real roughness, almost AMA style difficulty to this track right here. And it's pretty cool like that, because that gives it a lot of longevity and a lot of fun just riding on the track for a long period of time. And the fact that the track itself is actually pretty long, so that's an awesome thing. And I'd forgot about that. I know I've made some custom tracks here recently that weren't very long as far as just straight up distance on the track, and that can definitely make the track feel a whole lot less of being something amazing when it's just short overall. And that's something that they did really cool on this track. Just the length of it, you just felt like, oh my gosh, this track is never ending. And then what that does is it makes it a whole lot more fun just in playing the track over and over and running laps just for endless amounts of hours, because you're constantly trying to learn every little section. And instead of just having 3 or 4 sections to learn, you have, you know, 7, 8, 9 sections to try to learn. So it just gives you a whole lot more things to do on the track, and that's a pretty cool thing. But I think they nailed the actual ground decal on this track. It's got that awesome gray feeling to it, but it also has the kind of brown look here and there as well. I think gray dirt really belongs on nighttime tracks. I don't know why, but I think it's, even though a track could be more so brown in a daytime scenario, I think a lot of tracks look more gray when it comes to nighttime lighting on it. And what amazes me is there's not even any nighttime motocross tracks on the AMA circuit. There is actually one on the GP circuit, and you know how much of a different feeling that has than any of the other tracks out there. There's something about mixing nighttime in motocross that it's just not done very often. So when you see it, it's just like eye candy to you, man. It's an awesome atmosphere, and it's an awesome experience. It just seems like to me, where just something so different than you normally see, and I just love that about tracks like this. But yeah, man, this track's got a ton of jumps on it. A lot of them are not super big or crazy or anything like that, but they're definitely fun, challenging. It's just, this is a fun track. I'm not just saying all this stuff because, oh, it's a nighttime track and, oh, yeah, that's awesome and I love nighttime tracks and da-da-da-da-da. Like, the actual on-track and everything is a lot of fun on this track as well. And it being so long, it just, man, you're constantly trying to learn this section and figure out that section. And, oh, I just figured out the big line to that section. And, oh, my God, this roughness is crazy. And it's definitely gnarly roughness, man. You got to be prepared. It would be sort of like you had a perfectly flat surface, and then you just, along through there, you put random big triangular bumps just here and there, and that's kind of what it's like. It's not really like your standard, ordinary 2016 AMA roughness on a motocross track or anything. It's definitely a whole different feeling to it, which is cool, but it's just challenging and definitely something you have to get used to on this track. So none of the jumps are like some kind of crazy 200-foot anything. I think you could probably ride the track just fine on a 125, so that's kind of cool. But man, this definitely gave me some inspiration. I want to get back into making some nighttime motocross tracks, and just some, I know it's kind of tricky making shading and really making the track dark in certain areas on this game right here, and I haven't totally figured out that aspect of the track making on this game yet. But once I do, I'll try to go in there and make something that really has shadows and all that cool stuff, so it feels like you're on a real-life nighttime motocross track. I mean, this track right here, it's got some parts to it that are a little more shaded, but there's nothing where it's so shaded that it's actually affecting how good you can see the track. So it's not really a actual gameplay mechanic as far as the lighting on the nighttime track. It just kind of looks cool. So, but I think it's cool when you can get aspects of a custom track that really affect the actual gameplay, whether it's fog or whether it's just the straight up way the lighting is, or some of the way the ground decals are and the way the roughness is. Stuff that actually changes the mechanics of it is what really intrigues me as well. Not just the artistic look of everything, but something that can really change the way you ride on the track and the way it actually feels. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, man, just some fun, chill little jumps right here. I love coming across these old school tracks that I had absolutely no idea existed, but they're amazing and they're timeless. They'll last forever. This track right here, even 10 years from now, I can come back to it and say, wow, that was a pretty good track. I mean, there's some more of those beginner style tracks that aren't very good, of course, but, and then you got to keep it in your mind like, oh, that they made that track a long time ago, so you got to kind of give them some slack for some tracks out there. But this track, I mean, yeah, some of the roughness is a little crazily built, and everything's not perfect on the track, but overall, like, this is a rad track for life, dude. I mean, it's an awesome track, and it was before its time in a sense, I guess, as well. You could say that too, because I'm not really sure when this track came out, but even if this track came out in 2016, which it didn't, but I'm just saying if it did, I would be thoroughly impressed with it, man, no doubt. So I did actually try to hit, there's a couple little triple sections that you can kind of, you almost have to sort of cut the track a little bit to actually get the right angle to hit the bigger jumps and stuff, but it's a lot of fun. You can get in there and try to hit some crazy rhythms and stuff on this track. So it's not super realistic in the corners as far as ruts and all that kind of stuff, but man, it just, I don't know, overall, and I try to go over this with you guys, and I know a lot of you guys are probably like, really, Spencer, stop giving us track building tips. You say that in every video and stuff like that, but I really, that's one thing that, man, it's all about the overall feeling of the track. It's usually not just one thing. It's the overall essence, the overall vibe that the track has, the overall, just the way the roughness, it's not perfectly smooth, but yet there's not a million ruts in the corner, so it gives it that interesting dynamic, that interesting different feeling to the track. And oh my god, what was I doing right there? That was crazy. You can probably find some even crazier lines than I was hitting there, but anyways, I'm going to give this track a 10 overall, and I'm going to say the difficulty is solid hard difficulty, just because some of the roughness is pretty tricky and different on you, but as far as the jumps and all that, it's definitely not difficult. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Later, dudes.